In the next handful of minutes, you're going to get 4 very powerful tips to help you have the most successful possible kickoff with your assistant. I'm calling this Make or Break Your Assistant because there are some incredibly important things for you to do in the coming few weeks as you're just getting started with your assistant that really can make or break your relationship with them. Another name for this presentation is quote unquote fantasy versus reality. So let's talk about what's at stake for you. In the last 2.5 years, close to 3 years now that I've worked with Sarah, we've achieved some absolutely incredible things, and I completely believe this is possible for you too. Twice last year, I enjoyed 10 days of freedom where I was able to travel, no email, no phone, no Facebook, and I could just completely unplug because Sarah was there handling my email inbox and running a lot of the company on my behalf. Because of the help that Sarah's given me in taking the bottom 80% off my plate, I've been able to increase my consulting rates from $40 an hour to $500 an hour. Sarah and I are now at a point where she can actually predict a lot of what I need before I even ask for it, which is truly, truly magical. And we've really built an incredibly trusting relationship where she has access to a lot of my life, and I feel very comfortable with it. You too can have all of this. It's going to require you to build a relationship over time, though, with your assistant. And today I'm giving you 4 incredible tips to help you be as successful as possible in getting to the point that Sarah and I are at now. So, a very quick riddle for you. Would you rather $100,000 today, or would you like one single penny today that doubles for the next 30 days and then stops? Well, you've probably seen this riddle before, and you probably know that taking the penny on day 1 and letting it double to 2 cents, 4 cents, 8 cents, 16, and all the way down until about day 23, day 24, suddenly day 24, 83 grand is close to that 100 grand that you could have taken. But it doesn't stop there. It doubles to 167 to 335, and it goes all the way on up to $5.368 million. Why is that the case? Well, it's because of the power of compound interest, which Albert Einstein says compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. There's compound interest between you and your assistant. If we look at a standard compound interest curve, it usually goes like that. You and your assistant are right here right now. As time goes on, you're going to see some improvements, right? You're going to see some improvements. They're going to be kind of slow, and you'll probably get to somewhere around here, I would say, by year 1. But where things really get exciting is once you start getting to that second year and things really, really accelerate. Now, obviously, with Great Assistant, we're helping your assistant and you to move this so that it can happen sooner and sooner than 1 year. However, we want to respect wherever that number is, be it 9 months or 12 months or 15 months or whenever that moment happens where you really start feeling this incredible speed with your assistant. Wherever that happens, we want to be patient to get to that point. And so along those lines, I want to just warn you about something that's going to be very tempting. And that's what I call lottery thinking. I'm sure there's some psychological academic word for this. I just call it lottery thinking. Lottery thinking is if I just X, then I can Y. If I just show the plan, I can have all the money and freedom that I'm looking for. That's kind of the promise that Amway makes. A lot of diet pills and supplements will make the promise of, hey, just eat this pill or drink this supplement and you can lose weight. Quick side note, how funny is it that apparently eating these supplements also gives you hair extensions that previously you didn't have, gives you fake eyelashes that previously you didn't have, and possibly, I'm not sure, but possibly maybe even give you a boob job that before you didn't have. I'm not sure. Oh goodness. If you just win American Idol, you can be rich and famous. In fact, look at this, Susan Boyle. You can even be unemployed. And if you just win America's Got Talent or American Idol, Britain's Got Talent, you can be older, you can be overweight, you don't have to be good looking, and you can even be unemployed, and you too can be rich and famous. And of course, we couldn't talk about lottery thinking. If I just X, then I get to Y, without talking about the lottery. The lottery is notorious, and we've all heard the stories before of what actually happens to lottery winners. It seems like such a fantasy, so much freedom, so much riches, when in fact, it's like around 70 to 80% of lottery winners are worse off than before they won the lottery. From crazy addictions to wild spending to friends and family who come and steal money from them, it is an absolute gong show. So I want you to be properly equipped to understand how you can avoid lottery thinking. Okay? So let's understand this idea of the break-even point and how it relates to lottery thinking. So lottery thinking says, hey, I'm here, I'm going to spend some money, I'm going to get an assistant, and suddenly I'm going to be here, and oh my goodness, now I'm really going to be off to the races, and I can sit pretty up here, happy to move forward. Well, I'm telling you, it does not work like that. How it actually works, if this is lottery thinking, and that's fantasy, then reality is, it actually works like this. If this is where you are today, getting an assistant actually makes you in a worse position. I know, it sounds ridiculous. Coming from a guy who has an amazing assistant himself and has built an entire business around it, yes, with all of that in mind, yes, I'm telling you, you are worse off the first day that you have an assistant. Inevitably, some of the time, energy, and money that you are currently investing in moving forward is going to be invested in working with your assistant to get them up to speed. And they will get better and faster over time, and then they'll hit a break-even point here. And only at this point do they start bringing you leverage on your time, energy, and money and your investment in them. Now, I got to give you credit. You saw how Great Assistant, the program that I've offered you, has helped you to actually skip a lot of this, a lot of the training, the Kolbe matching, the onboarding, the ongoing support, the ongoing training that we offer them. Is truly helps you to skip ahead. So we've been doing all this in the background while you've been moving along. Furthermore, because you're paying that $97 a month ongoing, you get your assistant is going to get some additional support along the way with the private Facebook group that we have that is only for certified assistants through our program. So there's this amazing like brain trust of assistants in here that can really help to knock off a lot more of this growth and learning to get up to break even. Now, it would be naive for me to say that we can completely eliminate this trough or this valley here. There really is still going to be some inevitable growth and learning that has to happen. And it's in here that you can really make or break your assistant relationship. And I am here with the 4 best things that you can do to help cross this chasm together so that you can get over to this break-even point with your assistant. You can meet them there, and then together the two of you can go into some very exciting territory, being able to get tons of leverage from working together. So that's the break-even point. So what are the 4 things that you can do? First of all, do whatever you can to help your assistant to get early wins. As you experienced in your process of preparing and creating your first 5 tasks, we coached you on selecting tasks that were simple, repeated regularly throughout the week or throughout the month so that your assistant could build confidence quickly. This is part of why we told you to not offload your email inbox to them right off the bat. Don't give them your calendar right off the bat. It's too complicated. It has too many moving parts. It requires too much of an intimate knowledge of your work life and who your clients are and what your product is. They need some time doing the simple stuff first to get these early wins. The more that you can stay focused on that and provide early wins for your assistant, the more confidence they build and the more that they will pay you back in spades in compound interest down the road. The second tip is to limit what's called work in progress. So currently, you've come up with your first 5 tasks that you've handed off to your, or you're preparing to hand off to your executive assistant. I'm telling you, in the coming days, once the assistant has started on these first 5, you're going to be awfully tempted to start putting extra stuff on their plate to see what they can handle. I'm encouraging you to hold back. I know it's going to be so tempting, but I'm telling you, don't have the lottery mentality. I want you to have the compound interest mentality. I want you to invest not just in their skill, but also in their confidence and also in their just overall knowledge of your business before you load them up too much. If you have an assistant who starts on the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tasks, and then you put 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, they may get this one started but not finished, this one finished all the way, this one finished all the way, but then they may end up with all these tasks started but not completed. Assistants are helpful to you, not in so much as how many projects can they start, but how many projects can they finish for you. And if you are constantly giving them new things and changing their direction and their focus is this way and that way and the other thing, they can never actually get things done to get that sense of satisfaction and confidence that they need to cross the chasm to join you at the break-even point and beyond. When we've got an assistant, they are almost always going to be happy and excited and upbeat. They get to work from home. They get to support their family. They get to be with their child. They're going to be super happy and excited. They are going to be smiling. Furthermore, they want to impress you. They want you to be pleased with them. So they're always going to be upbeat and putting on a brave face, when in fact, they may be completely overwhelmed. Remember, in their Kolbe score, which I'll discuss in another moment or two, they are high follow-through and they are low quick start. So that means that they really like structure and systems and plans, and they really don't like too much risk or change, right? And so there's a lot of things that are overwhelming to them that to you may seem like no big deal. Okay? Limit that work in progress. Now, obviously, if they've crushed the first 5 tasks and they clearly are doing really well, then do the 360 delegation for the 6th, 7th, 8th tasks and hand that off. And of course, you can keep moving forward. Third tip is to negotiate success. In your next meeting with your assistant, please discuss this question. Maybe even forward this to them ahead of time so that they've got an answer ready for you. Remember, your assistant is not very high in quick start. They're like a 3 in quick start. So if you ask them to improvise on the fly, they might jam up and go like, I'm not too sure. So send them the question ahead of time, and then they'll be ready with an answer to discuss in your upcoming meeting. So the question is, what must we achieve by the end of the trial period to say this was successful? So that can be personal or professional. So obviously a big part of this is going to be the first 5. So you might say to the assistant, success to me looks like you've mastered the first 5 tasks. It might also be something like we're up and running on 3 new apps that Tim suggested, like Convo and Teamwork. And you might also say something like, we've been able to set up a weekly meeting where we're meeting every single week. And that might look like success to you. To them, it might be something like, yep, first 5 steps, that sounds great. It might also be something like they've been able to talk to their family, to let their family know, hey, there's going to be some times that I'm home, but I'm not available. You need to respect mom's working space because I have a job. Even though it looks like I'm at home and relaxing, I do have a job to do. So that's, there's personal and professional, the two of you can discuss to negotiate that success. And then that way, once you hit the ground running here and you're working at the speed of business with each other, if she starts feeling overwhelmed or you start feeling overwhelmed, you can both take a look at what did we say originally would make the trial period successful. It's a really beautiful anchor. My 4th tip to you is to embrace the Kolbe differences between you and your assistant. You are most likely going to have a very different way of going about work than your assistant. And by understanding your assistant's Kolbe differences from yours, you'll be able to work successfully together and understand those moments where you're like, oh, why are we doing things so differently? And be able to navigate that. So let's take a look at the typical entrepreneur. The typical entrepreneur, and I would say about 80% of entrepreneurs fall into this profile, are going to be high in quick start, low in follow through. And if that's not you, that's okay, because guess what? I'm actually not the typical entrepreneur. I'm up here in quick start. So if that's you, then hey, you and me both. But let's talk about the typical entrepreneur. Typical entrepreneur is going to be very quick to change directions, very comfortable with risk, ready to improvise on the fly, very much a ready, fire, aim. Plus, oftentimes an entrepreneur doesn't need a lot of a plan, so they're willing to operate with just very loose guidelines or maybe no guidelines at all and just make it up on the fly. When we take a look at how that compares to the typical assistant, they're actually just the opposite. Oftentimes, the typical assistant that we bring into Great Assistant is going to really like a plan. They're going to actually like a detailed plan, and they're going to like to stabilize situations. They're going to be really good at not jumping and getting distracted by shiny objects. So now when we look at the combination of the two, it's really important that you can get to know your assistant's Kolbe score and for them to get to know yours. When people don't understand their Kolbe differences, oftentimes they descend down into like character judgments and personality judgments, which are inaccurate. But unfortunately, if you just don't know any better, it's easy to go there. For the quick start, they may look at the assistant and say, holy smokes, why do you need so much information? Why do you need to create such a plan? Like, why are you wasting so much time? Just get started. And, like, can't you see all this opportunity that you're missing? Like, are you dumb? Well, okay, the assistant's not dumb. They just need a lot of information and a plan, and they're slow to change direction. So if you can embrace that, then all of a sudden you realize it's not a problem with them or their character. It's just that they work differently. Likewise, the assistant might look at you and say, holy smokes, you change direction so quickly. You never have a plan, and maybe you even have very little information, yet you're willing to take action and change directions. Like, you're reckless. Well, no, you're not reckless. You just don't need the information in the plan. You'll make it up on the fly. You can lean on this high quick start as you're kind of moving through your days and weeks. So I'll tell you a quick story here to kind of capture this. Is a girl that I'm dating. She's actually the typical entrepreneur score, and me, as I mentioned, I'm actually close to the typical assistant score. And I would say if I didn't know about the Kolbe test, I'd be really frustrated with this girl far more often. And instead, because we know each other's Kolbe scores, we're able to kind of catch ourselves at those potentially stressful moments and say to each other, okay, hold on. This is just a Kolbe moment. So for example, anytime we travel, when we're leaving a hotel room, I can pretty much guarantee every time, let's say about 3/4 of the time, she's going to forget something, because she doesn't really need any kind of like detailed sweep of the room. It's time to leave. Okay, it's time to leave. Let's go. No need to like close a whole bunch of open loops. No need to sweep through the place. It's just time to go. All right, and off she goes. And so we know that it's probably best for her to go to the front desk and take care of that. While I, as someone who has a great eye for detail and really wants to close all loops, I'm the one who's going to look underneath the bed and behind the dresser and in the shower to make sure there's no shampoo left behind that we might have brought, etc., etc., etc. And now that we know that about each other, we can set each other up for success along the way as we operate and kind of navigate the day together. So the 4 keys to a successful start with your assistant are: 1, to get early wins. We really need to protect their confidence, build their confidence, and help them, despite the fact that they don't like a lot of change, right? They're low quick start, they don't like a lot of change. We got to help them get early wins. Secondly, we want to limit the number of different projects we're putting on their plate, especially in the beginning while they're learning all the foundational tools and learning about the foundations of your business and who the important people are for them to know from your world as well. Thirdly, negotiate success with them. Keep in mind that first 5. And again, if you are doing a good job of limiting this work in progress and negotiating success, knowing what that looks like the first 5, that really helps to feed the early wins. And then lastly is to embrace your Kolbe differences. Understand and do your best to start finding those moments when you're working with your assistant when one where either you or the assistant is feeling like, oh, this is kind of grinding, it's against the grain, I feel uncomfortable. Find out what is it in your Kolbe scores that's creating that, because it probably is simply a difference in Kolbe score. And at that point, it's just a matter of coming up with some kind of like a cognitive strategy to make up for the difference between the two of you. So again, like I shared, I'm the one who does the hotel room sweep. That's a cognitive strategy. Another really great cognitive strategy is 360 delegation. So before you delegate something to your assistant, take a moment, tap the brakes a little bit. speed check. Ask yourself, okay, if I stop myself for a moment, even if it's just 5 minutes, I do a rough 360 delegation, and if I get to the end of that 360 delegation, I ask myself, is this actually really worth it? You might be amazed how often you say, you know what, actually it's not worth taking my assistant's focus and changing their direction, because now that I've thought this through a little bit, it's a great project, but just not for right now. Or it seemed like a good idea when I first thought about it, but now that I think about it, now we're just going to delete this altogether. So using some of those cognitive strategies, those tricks in your mind, helps you to bridge the difference between the two of you. I am so excited for you. I wholeheartedly believe you can have a Sarah in your life the way that I have a Sarah supporting me. And if there's any kind of support that we can extend to you or your assistant, then by all means, please reach out to us. The Inner Circle for your assistant is an incredible network and a very powerful network that your assistant can go to again and again for any kind of questions or issues that they have. So if there's ever an issue, encourage them to reach out to the Inner Circle and or to us here with Great Assistant, and we can help to keep things moving along. Thank you so much. This is Tim Francis. I look forward to chatting with you in the next video or webinar, whenever it is that we see each other again. And I'm so excited for you for the coming weeks. Follow these 4 tips to help you have the most successful trial period possible, ultimately getting you to that break-even point in the next couple months, maybe even in the next handful of weeks. Thank you so much.